I'm Dana Denha, and you are watching FYI. We are all citizens of the world. The branches of our family tree intertwine to create the people that we are. But we can also be enlightened to our culture and others through education and celebration. Joining me is Teresa Chang with the Michigan Taiwanese American Association, Huchen Chan, Director of the Taipei Cultural Center in New York, Larry Baranski, Director of Public Programs for the Detroit Institute of Arts, and Emily Howard with our local Ann Arbor District Library, here to fill us in on the details of the 2021 Bunun Indigenous Music and Film Festival. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I would like for you guys to first, and you can go one by one because we don't want to talk over each other, but tell me what this festival is all about and why you started it. This is the third year, I believe.
The reason we have this Taiwan Cultural Festival in terms of focus this year in Indigenous Bunun Music and Film Festival is because that we believe that having a culture enrichment in our local Metro Ann Arbor area as well as the Southeast Michigan is so important that to have these very beautiful music and arts and culture into our communities. So that's the primary reason, and that's also a mission for Michigan Taiwanese American Organization as well.
I think this is something that we don't think about when we're growing up and we're in school and we're learning things. You don't learn a lot about other cultures when you're an American student in a public high school. So I think it's on us, it's on our shoulders as we grow to do it ourselves, to learn about other cultures and talk about why it is important to learn about other cultures and how it helps shape us.
For the museum, this has unique importance. The Detroit Institute of Arts is one of the few major museums in the US that is financially supported by the community. Of course, we all know about the millage funding that we received, and it's been about a decade that we have been involved with this. And part of that process was reaching out to the community when this began 10 years ago and meeting the community and different subsets of the community. And it's through these activities that the staff of the Public Programs Department of the museum first came in contact or really began to understand the depth of the Taiwanese community in Michigan. There were so many that were part of our organizations that we already knew. And through this process, they began to help us come to a nuanced understanding of Taiwanese culture. And it really was on, time after time, such a joyous experience working with them. And in the course of my work, which is in the Public Programs Department, which included film, music, and interestingly and uniquely, puppetry, there were, all these revelations that we enjoyed through our work with the Taiwanese community in Detroit.
You can go, to the DIA, you can go to the Ann Arbor District Library. This is not just for people in Washtenaw County. This is people all over Southeast Michigan.
As a matter of fact, it's actually around the world can also watch our shows.
Virtual too, right?
Yeah,
it's in person and virtual. You have two options.
Right. Yes, through Ann Arbor District Library or Detroit Institute of Art portal. And thanks to both Larry and Emily that agree for us to collaborate, and because that involves so many organizations together for this year. We are very honored to have this opportunity to share the pride and joys of the Bunun culture. In terms of the program itself, we have over 15 days, ranging from the motion film series that involves 3 films, as well as that post-screening question and answer online live with the director Young overseas. So that's really amazing, especially that one of the film itself is a premiere in the United States. So we're so proud of it. Many other states are so jealous and say, why is it in Michigan? Why is the premiere in Michigan? I'm like, hey, sorry, we just happen to have that opportunities. So besides the motion picture series, we also have lectures and panel discussion series, which we think that is so important that to have that dialogue in between the US and Taiwan. And so that actually across the culture that we understand each other and will appreciate these films and movies that we bring into the United States.
You know, we're still in a pandemic. I'm sure it hasn't been easy to put this like 2 weeks, 15-day festival on. And I'm sure there's been a lot of challenges. I'm sure Larry and Emily can allude to this a little bit more about bringing these films to locally so we can experience them for the first time, as you say.
I think for the library, we feel very fortunate that we're able to premiere Listen Before You Sing, and it's really been a challenge for us as an organization over the past 18 months or so, and we've been doing a lot of virtual programming. But we're also very lucky in that the timing happened to align right before the pandemic. We made plans to have a very large screen that I believe is 9 by 16 feet installed in our lobby in the downtown library. So if you go down there now, you can see it. And the Ladies Library Association was generous with that gift. But what that opens up to us is being able to screen a film in the largest indoor space that we have, to give people a little more room to spread out. And the screen itself is fantastic. So the movie is going to look really good.
That's awesome. I didn't know the library had obtained a big screen like that. So that's really exciting.
Brand new.
Let's talk about the music aspect. I think the music of the Bunun culture is a really big part of this celebration, because you guys have sent me some really beautiful videos, and I think you can just get entranced in this music.
Yeah, maybe I can give some basic idea about the indigenous people in Taiwan. That there are 16 officially recognized tribes in Taiwan. And the population is about 2% of our population. Then I checked also Native American is 2% of all the population. And the Bunun tribe is the 4th largest group. And there are about 1,600 people in Taiwan. So that's not a lot. Mm-hmm. And the indigenous people live in Taiwan for thousands of years before Han settler moved from China in 17th century. And also, Dutch, Spanish, Japanese has been come to Taiwan to occupy here as a colony, and the indigenous people are forced to move in mountain. And in Taiwan, 2/3 of the island is forest mountain. That's where the indigenous people live. So they are very good hunters, and they are very good at express their vocal voice. That's what the Babi Pupu very famous for their music, and we will present this time. And also, there is a panel discussion about their music, I guess.
Yeah, well, you mentioned, I'm going to say it wrong, the Pasi Bupu. That has some meaning behind it. Can you explain the meaning behind those words and why it is important to the Bunun culture?
Pasi Bupu itself is actually a ritualistic songs that pray during the Bunun sowing festival, and it pretty much it means that they pray to wish the abundance of the millet harvest. So. It really interesting part is that it is not known before 1943 throughout the world. Not until in 1943 when a Japanese scholar or musicologist came to the Taiwan and visited, and then happened to be in Mountain Jade, or nowadays we call it Yushan. So below the Mountain Jade, and he did all the field research and happened to have a chance to visit the area and listen to these Pasibubu, and he was just amazed by it. So
It feels so spiritual when you watch these videos. And I'm sure this is some sort of journey that you will experience during this festival. Talk about how they're bringing like their spiritualness to the masses, because this is not something, I think religion and being spiritual is very individual, but I think it's great to be open to other people's thought processes and what they find spiritual in their lives.
When Teresa first brought this proposal to us, it was in 2018, I believe. And
19,
and we were planning it as a live event in the theater
yes.
when the musicians were actually planning to travel to the US and tour. And when they first showed my staff and myself recordings of it, some of us have been working in the museum. I've been there 46 years. I've never seen anything like it. This unique polyphonic vocal tradition. And it was so singular, but you immediately understand it on some levels. On one hand, it's mysterious because I have very little understanding of this traditional culture, but just understanding how they're working as musicians, how they're listening so carefully to each other and responding in all these little subtle ways, that it's very ancient and it's super contemporary sounding too. So it was such an exciting thing to see, and naturally we were all very much looking forward to them performing in Detroit and being able to host it. And usually in the process of doing that, that's when the staff really learns a lot. That's when we get to talk to the performers, see them preparing. And of course, it all became impossible, and we weren't able to do that. So that's when we thought that one thing we could do in the meantime, until that day comes back, is to organize a program such as we'll be doing on October 14th, which will be this international conversation between the Bunun musicians, a filmmaker based in Taiwan who has, spent most of his career dealing with this subject, and then of course our partners in Michigan who are helping to coordinate it all. Teresa, the Taipei Cultural Center, of course, which has brought so many incredible programs over the years to Detroit.
This is just like a once in a lifetime thing. Hopefully we'll see, this live show down the road. I mean, I think people won't understand how it feels to listen to this until they hear it for themselves. That's just, exactly what you said, Larry. It's like something us Westerners just have not felt before. And when you feel it, it's just something different. It just feels good. So what are these two films and why should people check them out?
They are actually two documentary films, Cine Plus. And these were made in 2009 as well as 2011. So these two films actually is a documentary film. It's basically, it's a prelude of the film Listen Before You Sing, for the premiere that we're going to be having at the Arbor District Library downtown, October 17th on Sunday at 2 o'clock. These two films are based upon the true story of Principal Ma when they would struggle to have the school open and also try to build students' confidence in their life, and as well as that, the cultural differences and how they feel about themselves. So when they were facing the issue of the school closing, and they actually have an opportunity to have Principal Ma, who doesn't know anything about the music, come on board and think that he's definitely, and he went through the school in not in a mountain, but in a regular and planned area where he knows that when he went through the same struggle, because himself is the Bunun, and it talks about a story about it. So a two documentary film is actually the true story about when director Yang went with them throughout the world to travel around the world and see things. First was back in 2007 when Director Yang first started in going to Thailand first time and working with them because he graduated from US in Georgia. So he become English managers to help them for everything. And because of that, he also a volunteer since 2007. Then he get to learn about their story and felt very compelling that he wanted to do the documentary film. So those two films, documentary films, actually had made him won Golden Harvest Award, which is very unusual that for a film like this got it. So he won that in 2008. So that's particularly on these two films. What was the Listen Before You Seen? It took them not until from 2011-13 till now. It's almost 10 years, 8 to 10 years.
That's a
to
long
make this
time,
film.
yeah.
It is, and to make that available. In there, you actually see how many issues that not only for the Bunun culture, intergenerational issues, the music parts, the bringing up the kids' confidence, as well as the meaning of the Taiwan current issues. For example, the substitute teachers, how they survive and what their responsibility in this in the society. And that also happened in US as well. We have many substitute teachers in Ann Arbor, I'm sure in Detroit area, as well as in New York. And all these areas have the similar issue. We have a similar struggles. And that also give us an opportunity to really reflect what we in the United States treating our indigenous group in Michigan and in US. So I think that this film brings out a lot of memory and also a lot of thinking that when you leave the place, you really would feel like a very happy in terms of learn about the Bunun music and the culture. Also, as well as that you would think about what happened in Taiwan in terms of the current situation, as well as that, back home here in the United States, particularly in our Michigan area. That's my thought.
I think you're right. I think there really is something to being able to relate to people across cultures that really makes you connect in a way that you would never expect even. And I think you're right. If you don't know about this stuff, if you don't watch these films, you don't know about these correlations, you may never feel that.
I would like to say when I was a little girl, there were very limited information about Indigenous people. Even a lot of people have some an implicit bias against Indigenous people. But however, during the past few decades, my country has been dedicated to preserving the political, economical, and social, and also cultural aspect to that we have these Indigenous people in our neighborhood, and we learn from them, and we learn about their culture. So when I was a little girl, I don't have the chance to see this kind of film, but now that this film is just one of our movies in our theaters that will be naturally learned by my kids. I'm so happy that we have this kind of musical and film, not only in Taiwan, but we can bring it to Michigan to share the people with the audience with Michigan. I think that's a very wonderful journey for all the films and the musical. And that's what we are doing in Taipei Cultural Center. I think after the pandemic, we know the international exchange is kind of essential for all of us. Though we cannot fly over, we have the board restriction, but we still need this culture, this international exchange between us. So that's why the world is so beautiful.
I agree. You know, before we started this interview, I think it was Teresa who had sent me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, sent me some videos of some traditional Taiwanese instruments that I had never seen before. Could you guys tell me a little bit about these instruments? Because I'm sure we'll see some of these instruments during this festival, right?
Yes, Dana, thank you for bringing that up. Actually, with that, we thought it's so important because you're gonna see these the jaw harp. That's the explanation of it. But they call it as a hung hung, and that's the way how they pronounce it. I try to pronounce it as close as possible. The other instruments that we're gonna be presenting will be a latu, which is like a kind of like bowl harp looking. Both of these actually are will be representing in the film of Listen Before You Sing, which is a combination of Chinese instruments of National Chinese Orchestra Taiwan, as well as the Bunun tribal associations that they are Bunun musical instruments. So that's really excited about it.
We have a little bit of time left. Is there anything that I didn't mention that you guys would like to talk about that is happening during the Bunun Festival? Because I want to make sure that people really know what's happening. There's a lot. It's a lot going on. You know, it's 15 days. So I don't want to leave anything out.
Bunun group or Pasibubu itself is the oral traditions of singing. So there's no written lyric or anything like that you could really appreciate it or things like that. And it is also considered as an intangible cultural heritage, and that actually meeting the United Nations educational, scientific, and cultures organization definitions, and also been recognized by the Bureau of Cultural Heritage of Ministry of Culture in Taiwan. So it's become really a nationally protected music, etc. That's why we are so honored to have this opportunity to bring that music into our Michigan, and particularly in Ann Arbor and the Metro Detroit area.
I would like you guys to each go around and talk about why it is so important. Knowledge is power, to know about other cultures, and specifically take the time, you know, to go to the panel discussion or watch the films that are available during this festival.
For my part, I would like to propose that it's in everyone's best interest to do this, because this music and much of the culture of Taiwan has this just like profound exuberance to it. And I see this in film, in music, in the wonderful puppet troupes that have come to Detroit, and I absolutely saw it in this as well. So it's exactly what we need in this time and place, I think, and I don't think anyone would regret.
And I will mention, you've mentioned a couple times about these Taiwanese puppet shows. They are amazing to watch. It's literally like watching a play. It's so good. The stories
It's better
are
than
so
watching
good.
a play.
Yeah, it is. Really, it is.
Yes.
The artistry that goes along with it. My gosh.
So I'll say, especially from the perspective of the library, is that for us, it's really important to work with organizations like Mitai. I mean, for two reasons. One is that we do have a really diverse community here in Ann Arbor, and we want people to see themselves and their culture reflected in the programming that we offer. But also, for people for whom this is new, it's not just about, learning about the culture of a people who are far away, but it's also learning about your neighbors. And, people can come here and really get a better understanding of the community in which they already live, in addition to communities that are far away. So we're always very happy to work with Mitai to bring these programs in.
I came to the United States in February 2020, and after 1 month, there will be pandemic. And after pandemic, I think I would say as a human being, no matter what color you are, what nationality you are, we are just a human being. We want to be together. We want to learn from our friends, learn from more things about friends. So the friend is everywhere, and everything is not so take for granted. So we are more cherished at what we are, cherish our community, cherish other cultures. I think this realize that's made me feel that I'm more obligation to do the international exchange, to share what we have with you.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I would like to say, based upon what we all believe in diversity, equality, and inclusions, that's what we base upon. We like our neighbors and friends and everyone that in contact with us to learn about what the Taiwan culture is about and bring them into the States and particularly in our local community here. And we also want our next generations or generation after to really appreciate what we are, what we do.
Thank you all for having this conversation with me.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Thank
Dana.
you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah.
For more on this and other programs, visit a2gov.org/CTN. Visit youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor to see all that we have to offer. And remember to like, subscribe, and ring that notification. Thanks for watching and tune in next time to FYI.